Hello, my name is Chelsea Zephyah, and today I'm gonna discuss about the Opium Wars between the Great Britain and China and the history of Opium Wars. So you might have heard the term tossed around in history class or seen it or mentioned in some glossaries. Maybe you just associated opium with drugs or addiction, but what if I told you this one substances, yeah, it's just like opium, help rewrite the future of one world's oldest civilizations? So in 1839, where Qing Dynasty China, the empire's got like a major problem on its hands. So the Opium War addiction is like spreading fast, and it's devastating communities from peasants all the way up to the government officials. Like this isn't just a public health crisis; it's a national emergency. So, where's all the opium come from? Mostly from British traders. It's not just any British, like these are merchants working with the British controlled India, shipping massive quantities of opium into China, raking in huge profits. It's technically illegal, but it's still happening. And the king government kind of fed up with everything. Enter in Siju, this guy's not here to play. So he sent in the emperor with one clear mission: shut the whole thing down. While Lin goes hard, he got arrested more than 1,000 dealers, seized over 1,000 tons of opium, and destroy in this massive public spectacle inhuman. For context, that's not enough opium to keep millions hooked for years, but here's the thing. When Lin takes on British traders and demand to stop the trade, Britain doesn't say, yeah, fair point. Instead, they say, you're messing with our business, and that's when things start to go spiral. So, and the segment two is when the war breaks out. So, a British sailor kills a Chinese villager, and the Chinese authorities said that, okay, we're gonna try him under Chinese law. But the British are like, nope, our citizens are above your laws. Real colonial mindset. Britain pulls its people and ships out Guizhou, and soon enough, boom, we've got the first Opium War. Now, this isn't like a fair fight. So, Britain in steam powered gunboats like the Nemesis, which sounds like a villain for a reason, while China's still sailing around in traditional wooden junks. The technology gap is massive, and the British take full advantage of it. It by 1842, it's game over for China. They're forced to sign in a Treaty of Nanking, which is brutal, but they have to pay huge fines. So they open five ports to foreign traders and hand over the Hong Kong to the British. And the kicker? The opium's still illegal, technically, but the trade doesn't stop, so it actually gets bigger. And the segment three is the second blow. So, uh, in the night in next jump ahead, like in the 1856, things haven't exactly improved, and then comes around two, the Second Opium War. This one kicks off with a bunch of incidents, including a narrow incident. A Chinese ship with a British flag gets boarded by Qing officials, and the execution of a French missionary. Britain and France team up this time because, well, imperialism loves company, as usual. They storm their way towards Beijing, and one of the darkest moments, the looting and burning of the Summer Palace, this gorgeous symbol of the Chinese imperial culture, wiped out. China is, again, forced to sign another humiliating treaty, which is the Treaty of Beijing in 1860. This time, opium trade is officially legalized. Like missionaries and foreign settlers get freedom roam and operate across China. More lands gets handed over, more control slips away. It's not just about land anymore at this point, it's about sovereignty or the lack of it, I suppose. And then the second four, the consequences and the collapse. So, what happens actually when a country loses control of its economy, its laws, or its borders? So, you get collapse socially, politically, culturally, like everything. You lose everything, and opium addiction spreads like wildfire. The economy starts revolving around the drug trade, and the Qing leadership looks weak, corrupt, and kind of powerless. While the rebellions start flaring up, and especially to the Taiping Rebellion, which ends up killing tens of millions of people, and that's not even a typo, and that's a fact. And what's worse is that this foreign influence, this ongoing humiliation, it doesn't end. The Western powers dig in deeper, while China becomes a patchwork of spheres of influence, with multiple countries carving out economic and territorial chunks for themselves. The phrase century of humiliation, yeah, this is where it kind of starts, and that's not just a poetic label, it's a real political concept that still echoes in how China sees itself and its history. On and then And so, what do we kind of take it from this? Well, first off, the opium wasn't just a drug, it was a tool, a weapon. Even Britain used it to turn a trade deficit into a power play. It flipped the script and got China hooked, literally and economically. Second, the whole conflict exposed just how big the tech and the military gap and had gotten. Steamship versus sailing ship, like cannons versus outdated weapons. It was like bringing a bazooka to a sword fight. And finally, these wars planted the seeds of modern China's push for sovereignty, self-determination, and resistance to foreign control. Lin Zexu's stand didn't succeed at the time, but his spirits of defiance stuck around, and he became a symbol of a national pride and a tragic hero when I looked at the video. And that's all I can wrap up on today's dive into the Opium War. And before I ended this, and about conflicts weren't just about narcotics, but they were kind of about power, control, technology, and collision of empires. And their echoes kind of still felt today, from Hong Kong's history to the way China navigated in global politics, even in modern times. And yeah, and thanks for hanging and thanks for listening to my yapping and my comfort and my podcast about the Britain about the Great Britain versus China Opium War. And yeah, see you next time.